Peter is pulling off this scam. And so James and this group, they go to one of Peter's sermons, and it's in this big auditorium, probably 10,000 people there. And at one point, the whole place is passing buckets around because they're collecting donations. And one of James's volunteers uses this as an excuse to get close to the stage so that he can get a good look at Peter. And once he's there, he notices Peter is wearing a hearing aid. And he thinks, well, that's weird. This guy can heal people with his hands, yet he can't heal himself because he's wearing a hearing aid. So he goes back and he tells James, and they conclude that that's not a hearing aid at all. It's an earpiece, and someone must be feeding Peter information through that earpiece. So they all go to his next sermon to investigate further. This time they bring a radio scanner, and one of James's volunteers dresses up as a security guard and he stands in the back. And as soon as Peter comes on stage and starts preaching, their scanner intercepts his radio transmission and they can hear a voice through that scanner.
Hello, Petey. I love you. I'm talking to you. Can you hear me? If you can't, you're in trouble.
Now that voice is this woman, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is Peter's wife, and she is hidden in a different room, and she's feeding Peter all this information through his earpiece.
We have a hot one for you, Robert K. Wood.
Who is Robert Wood? Is it Robert
K. Wood.
K. Wood? Robert K. Wood.
That needs surgery.
You need surgery. The doctors were going to do surgery on you?
Okay, so here's how they were pulling off this scam. So the church would have the congregation fill out prayer cards before the sermon, and they would put them in a prayer box. And Peter's wife would sneak in and switch the boxes out. And then she would read people's information off the prayer cards to Peter through his earpiece.
Right next to her is Morris Christman.
Just a minute, who is Morris?
Christman.
Christman?
Yeah, he's got hernia and high blood pressure.
You've got a hernia also.
And as far as the faith healing goes, I mean, he's not really healing any of these people. They just think he is because they're caught up in the moment, because they're so hopeful and full of adrenaline. But he's not healing anyone. So anyway, James takes all of these recordings and he goes on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, which is the biggest show on TV during this time. And they play these recordings on the show for all of America to hear. And poor Peter is finally exposed as a fraud. And so then he has to lie and publicly deny it. And first he says, no, that wasn't my wife feeding me information through an earpiece. One of my haters hired an actor to try and set me up. In fact, he comes up with a bunch of excuses. But at the end of the day, the general public is like, fuck you, you're a con artist. And from there, donations to Peter's church slow down dramatically. And within a year, his whole organization filed